Well, good morning from the cottage farmstead. As continues to be the trend, it is raining yet again outside. That's pretty common here in South Carolina during the winter. We're usually gray and cloudy with a lot of rain mixed in. So since the weather has me inside yet again, I thought I would take you on the next step of how I plan our gardens for the spring and summer. So when you're just growing a couple plants in some pots on your patio or a raised bed or two in your backyard, there's not a whole lot of planning that goes into it beyond this is what I want to plant here. When you start getting into larger scale gardens or homestead gardens where you're thinking about trying to feed your family for a year from what you are growing, there is a little bit more planning that goes into it. I need to know how many tomato plants I need to get the amount of pounds of tomatoes that I need to preserve in canning and freezing and in our salsas and our tomato sauces. To help with that, we do have a little ebook that I will link down below on our website. It's a couple bucks, and it has how to calculate what you need to grow for your family to feed them for a year. It's not super complicated. There's just some worksheets in there that help you do the math and gives you the general yield of, say, a tomato plant and a cucumber plant, so that you have an idea of how many plants you need to plant. I've already done that work for our garden, and I also showed in our previous video reviewing what we grew last year, planning what we wanted to grow in our garden this year. So now I am sitting down and I am creating what I call my sowing schedule. So as you heard in our videos last month, we are planning on growing quite a few things and a lot of varieties of different vegetables and herbs and flowers in our garden. And so there's a lot of moving pieces. I need to know when I need to be planting seeds indoors for all of these different items. I need to know if I need to be cold stratifying any of my flowers or herbs. If I'm wanting to do succession plantings, I need to know when I need to be sowing over the course of the summer. So with all these different moving parts that it goes into growing a larger garden here on a homestead, I fall back on the handy dandy spreadsheet. So over my gardening years, I have tried a few different methods of keeping track of what I need to plant and when. I've tried putting it in my Google Calendar. I've tried doing it on paper. But really for me, the online spreadsheet has been the simplest and smoothest method to keep me organized all growing season long. So this particular version of the spreadsheet that I now use was inspired by a commercial flower grower. Commercial flower growers have to make sure that they have certain flowers in the entire season long, so they're planting a ton of successions. They need to make sure they have tulips at Mother's Day, and they need to have all the ingredients they need for bridal bouquets for the entire summer season into fall. So they have a whole lot of planning that goes into it. And I saw one of their spreadsheets that they shared on Instagram and knew that it would translate perfectly into the home garden. If you would like to try this particular spreadsheet layout, I will link a blank copy down below so that you can give it a whirl and see if it will work with your own garden planning system. So when I sit down to work on my sowing schedule spreadsheet, I have already gone through, like I did in the previous video, and reviewed last year's garden. I've made selections of what varieties that I want to grow this year. And I make sure that I have ordered the seeds or already have those seeds on hand. So when I'm sitting down to do the spreadsheet, I make sure I have all the packets of the seeds that I am planning on growing this year in a pile right next to me so that I can input the information I need into my spreadsheet. So let's take a closer look. All right, so here is the spreadsheet. Don't let it overwhelm you with all the data that's here. I'm gonna walk through each of the sections of it so that you understand how it works. First up, in the top left corner, I have our last average frost date and our first anticipated frost date. If you don't have that information for your area, it's very easy to find on farmersalmanac.com. You can just input your zip code and it will give it to you. Based on my garden journal notes for the last 4 years, we have had a lot of late frosts in April. So I have started taking to planting a couple weeks after our anticipated last frost, just in case we have a surprise frost that sneaks up on us. So I don't have to rush out there and try and cover all of my tomatoes and everything in the garden. Next up, along the top, I have the dates of the Mondays for every single week. And then I also have it listed as weeks underneath there. On the left side, I have what type of crop it is in alphabetical order. And then I have the variety that I'm wanting to grow. Say, for example, like on bell peppers down here, I have several different varieties that I'm growing. And then I have the location. In here I have the different places that we grow things here on our homestead. So we have our vegetable garden, we have our urban flower terrace, we have the entrance down at the mailbox. Our onion patch is where I'm planning on putting a lot of our sunflowers this year. And then at our back porch, I have more flowers over there. Next up, I have the quantity. So in here I have, say for green beans, I know that our 15-foot row produces enough green beans for us to eat all winter long. Same thing with carrots, it's more than enough carrots for us, and so on. I have down here calculated how many bell pepper plants we needed based off of previous year's data and using the ebook calculations that I mentioned earlier. Same thing with tomatoes, winter squash, and so on. I've also gone through and added all of the flowers that I want to try growing here. So I have the type and variety and where I'm planning on planting them. The location information is actually really important for the flowers, as I do grow them all around the house and down at the road. So this helps me when I'm pulling some transplants out of the greenhouse, like where was I going to plant a calendula plant? When I thought about it in February, I might not be remembering where I said I was going to plant that come April. So for the next section of the spreadsheet, I'm referring to what's in the back of the seed packets. There's usually planting instructions or transplant notes or germination suggestions on the back of them. So for example, with the carrots, this is not something that I'm planting in cells and trays and transplanting out later. These are direct sowed out into my garden. And it also lets me know that, they prefer cooler weather and approximately around the frost date when I should be planting them. So that's information that I'll be inputting into the spreadsheet. Same thing with tomatoes. It recommends starting the seed 6 to 10 weeks before our last frost date. So that's when I have the last frost date listed there, or at least the date that I want to transplant things out. And so I'll be working backwards on my calendar to determine when I need to sow these seeds. And then with things like your squashes that usually prefer being direct sowed, it lets me know when I need to be planting it around the last frost date. Do I need to wait a few weeks and be sure that there's no frost coming? Can it handle a light frost? So they're just some of the notes that I'm paying attention to in the back of the seed packets when I am filling out the next section of the spreadsheet. So when I sit down to work on my spreadsheet, I have all the seed packets of what I'm planning on growing this year right next to me. And I go line by line, taking a look at the recommended planting dates, if they prefer to be started indoors or prefer to be direct sown. And then I start doing the math based on when I want to be planting them out into my garden. So let's take tomatoes, for example, down here. Let's do the Amish paste row. So since I'm wanting to transplant them out around the week of April 22nd this year, I know that I need to count back 6 to 10 weeks to determine when I need to be planting my seeds out. So I type in my row over here, plant, that's when I want to have them out, and then I count back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then I have the week that I want to start my tomato seeds. I also include plants that I'm direct sowing on here, so I know what I need to be doing each week. So carrots prefer to be planted in the cooler weather before it gets really hot here in the southeast. So I have a note that in the week of March 4th, I need to be direct sowing my carrots out there while it's still cool so they'll germinate better. Another thing that I keep note of in here is cold stratification. So some flowers and herbs like echinacea and lavender like to be cold stratified. So cold stratification is simply just putting the seeds that you want to germinate on a wet paper towel and a Ziploc in your refrigerator for a couple weeks just to mimic winter conditions so that your seeds will germinate better for you. I'll link above and below to a video on how to do cold stratification if you haven't done it before, but it's super simple. Also for seeds like the sweet peas that I would like to try growing this year, those are seeds that need to soak for 12 to 24 hours before I plant them outside. So I put a note in here that while I need to direct sow them, I do need to do a little bit of prep work beforehand. So while it may seem like a lot of time to create a spreadsheet like this, it really does save time throughout the entire growing season when things can get a little chaotic when you are trying to grow the food and preserve the food and get all the flowers out there in time to enjoy them during the warm months. Once I have this spreadsheet set up, all I have to do is look what needs to happen in a particular week, and I don't have to worry about what is going on the rest of the time. So at the beginning of, say, the week of February 5th, I know exactly what seeds I need to pull out to get started. And I don't have to worry about any of the other seeds that I want to be planting this year. I know that they've been accounted for and that they will get planted as long as I refer to this list at least once a week, so I can see, okay, this week I have only 1 or 2 things to take care of. Next week I have a few more, and the next week I have a few more. So it's not as overwhelming as trying to keep all of this in your head while you're trying to do your garden planting in the spring. Well, I hope this peek behind the scenes of how I plan our homestead garden here at Cottage Farmstead was helpful. Like I said earlier, I'll link below to a blank copy of this spreadsheet if you'd like to give it a try in your garden this year. I have found that it's been so helpful in keeping me straight and making sure I'm able to plant out everything that I've dreamed of planting when I was looking through all the seed catalogs without missing any items or getting overwhelmed with what I need to do week to week. It keeps the to-do list to a minimum, and all the planning work that I've done here in the winter will make the growing season go more smoothly and more enjoyably. With that, I'll catch you next time.